What's going on, Runaway Nation? Jake Seymour here with Reid Miller and special guest today, Justin Lowe, for another episode of the GRD Podcast. Guys, welcome back to another episode. Reid, Justin, how are we doing today?
Doing good. It's been too long.
We're doing good as we can nowadays.
It's been a minute. The last episode we had Sean Grandy on. Once again, Sean, thank you for coming on. It was I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's something different to do. You know, usually it's 4 guys sitting here talking, and we actually had a guy that travels with the team and watches them all the time. So definitely something different. But we're going to go back to our roots today. We're going to talk about the Celtics and what they're going to do in the coming weeks with the draft and the offseason opening up. Right now we got first topic. Will Trader Danny finally make a trade? I've been very upset with Danny Ainge in the recent years. I feel like he hasn't done too much for a trade. Obviously, he had the Kyrie one. That was his big one, and he did some for Isaiah Thomas or those kind of trades. But since Kyrie trade, I don't think we've had a big trade, if any trades at all. That you could say. So I think Trader Danny, we could say he's been Hoarder Danny these last couple of years. But Reid, what do you think about Trader Danny finally making a move?
Well, today, let's say Thursday, November 12th was a very active day on the timeline. I'm afraid to go to sleep tonight because I feel like I'm going to wake up to some news on from Woj or Shams. There's a few names out there that we've been linked to for trades. I know that Miles Turner trades have been intensifying. Looks like the offer is Gordon Hayward in the 14th pick, which I'm just going to segue just dive right into that. I think if this is the one move by Danny that we're making this offseason, it is incredibly disappointing. I think that there's a lot more out there that we can get for if we were to trade Gordon than Miles Turner. He's a 7-footer who hates rebounding. He probably has like 6-7 boards. I know he shares the floor with Sabonis, but it's not like they're fighting for the rebounds. It's Miles Turner playing outside the key at 7 feet while Sabonis is grounding the rebounds. We don't need another stretch big. We need a true center that can play both ends of the floor. They say Bush shoots grabs about 6.5 rebounds a game when shoots maybe like 34, 35 from 3. I mean, not bad for a center, but it's not what we're looking for if we're trying to make that next big leap, and I don't think that's Miles Turner, especially if you're giving up someone like Gordon Hayward, who does so much for this team that no one seems to realize.
All right, Justin, what do you think about this whole trade?
I mean, centering in on the Gordon Hayward trade, we were kind of talking about this before we hit record, you're going to get something in value of Gordon Hayward. If he reportedly wants out, like all these reports are saying, he really does. I think he's essential to keep. But if we really do have to make a trade, guys, I'm attacking the center position. Reid, I kind of agree with you when you talk about the lack of rebounding that Miles Turner lacks, as well as we need a true center. We need a really true center, somebody down low and dominant. But as far as Gordon Hayward, if that trade does end up going through, we gotta get something in value for that.
I actually like Miles Turner coming here for Gordon Hayward because Gordon Hayward wants out of Boston, and you know the one thing with Gordon Hayward is that if he opts out and leaves, what?
And who's your source for that? You don't know.
The source, come on. It's the paintings on the wall. His kids aren't even in Boston anymore. They're out in Indiana. Coincidentally, that's where the Pacers are. I mean, this is following all the stuff that an athlete would do. The family moves. I mean, like, he's not going to live and play in Boston, and his family's in Indiana. It's just not going to happen. So that's why I think he wants out. I think it had, I don't know if something maybe had to do, with the whole bubble situation, and maybe, family decision came with that, or if it just played out that he doesn't want to play in Boston anymore. There's been a lot of bad things happen to him in Boston. He came in thinking to be the guy, obviously with Isaiah Thomas, and then they traded him for Kyrie, and then obviously all the gruesome injuries and bad luck that he's had in Boston. He's had, some are about the lucky team, the leprechauns, and he's kind of had the bad luck of that. So maybe he wants a fresh start. I mean, I feel like everyone's talking about all this stuff about Gordon Hayward opting out and reasons why he could. I just think maybe he wants a fresh start. So the fact that he's from Indiana, he's an Indiana guy, his family's right there. I mean, why not trade him? He can opt into his contract and we can send him to Indiana for Miles Turner. Maybe get a pick or something extra. I don't know. Maybe get something extra maybe. Or he can opt out. We can re-sign to a deal and then just trade him straight out for Miles Turner and make the salaries worth. That I would like that trade because I don't think he's going to stay here long term. Even if he opts in, I think he's gone next year.
I think I don't know if that's even like fair, like not fair, that's not the right word, but you don't want to cater to his needs, you're looking for the team's needs. Like, you don't just say, oh, he's from Indiana, let's trade him here. I think of all the names that we've heard these last 24, 48 hours, like we heard Holiday, Harden, Miles Turner, Westbrook, all these names have been linked to. I think he's the last option that we should be pursuing out of all of them. Not that the other ones are any better or worse. I think that there are moves to be made for Hayward that will benefit this team, and Turner is not one of them. Big picture wise, like if you're giving up someone like Gordon Hayward and the 14th pick and maybe more picks on top of it, trading all that, packaging all that just to get Miles Turner is underselling or overselling if you're the Boston Celtics. But I'm saying this out of pure hope. I don't think this is going to happen. I really hope it doesn't. I hope if this is the big talk that's building up momentum that Ainge eventually sits on his hands for, that this is the one. But if you were to trade Hayward, like, it's not like he's going to opt out and go elsewhere. Like, he's going to opt. He's not going to turn that money down. But from there, I do expect him to opt in first and foremost, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, but let's just stay under the assumption that Gordon Hayward wants out of Boston, okay? He doesn't want to be in Boston anymore, right? If he opts in and he's just going to leave the next year, you have to look to trade him at some point. Even if you don't actually do it, you got to look for it. So if you're off on Indiana, Reed, where do you think that they should look for another trade? See if you can get anything else for him.
That's what I'm saying. Like, my first priority is not to move him. Like, I think Gordon Hayward's so valuable to this team. You saw in the bubble without him that the ball kind of dies in isolation when you give it to Tatum or Kemba or Smart, and one of them is off that night, or two of them. But they just keep hoisting and hoisting. The ball dies. There's no more movement. You bring in Hayward. He's the facilitator this team needs. He rarely makes mistakes with the ball. He's a very good passer, great court vision, excellent IQ. The ball keeps moving, and that's so visible on the floor when he's not there. That aspect of Celtic basketball is missing when Gordon Hayward isn't playing.
Right, we all know the positive about him. I'm not arguing that he's not positive for the whole Celtics team, but what I'm saying is if he wants out of Boston, that's that. It doesn't matter if he's good for the Celtics. If he wants out, he wants out.
Okay, what we heard yesterday from Russell Westbrook said himself, he wants out. Everything in Gordon, that's different from Hayward. Hayward, there's speculation he wants out. There's no concrete, documented lines that he wants out. That's all. That's just the media trying to drive up controversy. That's literally like the dude, trust me source. That's literally all it comes from.
I mean, when your family's in Indiana and they're not in Boston anymore. I mean, we saw this with Tom Brady, and people said, he'll stay. And what happened? He's down in Tampa.
Well,
Okay,
Tom Brady's old.
I'm going to talk about this. Then he would have signed in Indiana, not Boston. His family lives in Indiana. Why would he have come here if he wanted to go?
Why did he want to come here? Brad Stevens, his former college head coach. And 4 years ago, Indiana was not on the rise to do anything.
They're still not on the rise. They're Indiana.
They could have get some noise in the playoffs. They're not going to win the finals. I'm not saying that. They're not going to come out of the East, right? But at this point in his career, I don't think he values other stuff more than winning. When he came to Boston, he wanted to win, and he wanted to be the guy. And he's not the guy anymore. He's the fourth option.
I just think he wants a fresh start. I mean, here's the thing. Gordon Hayward, he's been here, 3 or 4 years? Yeah. And it's every single season he misses more than a month of basketball because of an injury. He missed his whole first season because of that broken ankle. Reed, I agree with you on the sense of how valuable he is to the team with his passing ability. I mean, first of all, at 6'8", a small forward, his playmaking ability, his assets that he brings on defensively and offensively, I really think that's way too valuable to just lose. I definitely think I wouldn't be surprised if Gordon Hayward opted in. But Jake, I don't think him growing up in Indiana, I don't think that's the reason why he wants out of Boston.
Well, it's all the fact that he grew up there. It's just where his family is. That's where he's from. That's like his origin. I mean, that's what I always thought of it as. You want to go where your family is, whether that's in Indiana, Miami, LA, Boston, like wherever, that's where you want to go, where your family is. That was my whole take behind that. And I'm not disputing at all with Gordon Hayward. He's a great player. I love his play style, and I really hope he stays at Celtic for a long time and he re-signs next year. But I just think his tenure in Boston is coming to a close. I don't think he's gonna be here within a year. I don't even think he's gonna be here this season. I would not be surprised if he gets moved, whether that's for Miles Turner or someone else on this list. I would not be surprised at all. Or if he opts out, I would not bat an eye at either of those two options.
Jump to another name on the list. There was speculation about James Harden. This seems incredibly far-fetched. First of all, there was talk about this in the Ride the Wave chat on Instagram.
So
this is
The Ride the Wave chat could be a podcast into itself with all the discussions we have in that about sports.
Let me say this. Any team with James Harden as the number one option is not going to win. Any team labeled Harden's team is not going to win anything. And if Harden comes here, this becomes Harden's team, and that's just another one of those teams that will not win.
Yeah, that's the big thing with Harden is that he's gonna, if he comes here, he's gonna think that it's his team and that he can do what he wants. But I don't think it should happen. I don't like Harden at all, right? I don't want him to be here. But I will say, give it 3, 4, 5 years from now when Tatum's at that superstar level and it's his team. If Harden comes available again, I mean, I wouldn't mind picking him up at 5 years down the road when Tatum's that guy, the top 3 guy, top 5 guy in the league, and Harden's starting to fall off. Pick him up. But right now, there's no way you should trade for him or even sign him right now. Don't do it at all. Don't trade anything for him.
I'm gonna pass on a 36-year-old James Harden. Thank you. But bringing in James Harden, that would just hinder the growth of Brown and Tatum. I think the ball's gonna die in Harden's hands in the isolation, travel, whatever that is. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna.
I don't think you'll keep Tatum and or Brown if we go out for.
Yeah. You're blowing it up if you do that.
Yes, and you're also, this is a whole Kyrie Irving 2.0 situation where it's a great player, but it's not a winning player. I know, okay, hey, Kyrie Irving might have won a championship, but again, I don't think James Harden is that player that we want now. And Jake, I don't think he's that player I want when he's going towards 40. Especially, guys, I don't think you can surround a 36-year-old James Harden around Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown or Marcus Smart, because you're not going to have those players if you trade up for a James Harden.
Let's talk about now, though. We're not talking about 5 years.
Yeah, my whole point without being later would be I wouldn't be opposed to it. Right now, I'm completely opposed to it. I don't want to see him in green at all. 5 years, I would maybe think about it, but I probably wouldn't do it still.
That's the point. But, like, the same goes for Russell Westbrook. Like, that's why the two do not – it doesn't cancel out. They are both former MVPs. They still won't win together even if you bring them together. That's why there's all that mess going on in Houston. They want to bring that to Boston? No way. Like, you're not doing that. I really don't see this happening. I think it's just another rumor that Danny Ainge attaches himself to. I think that's all just strategic on his part. That's the point I made earlier off pod. I said that over the years, like the big trades we've made, like the Kyrie trade, you tap in at the last second. Like you didn't hear anything before that. It's all speculation. That's all strategic work by Danny Ainge, plugging himself here and there to get teams talking and get them on the phone.
So obviously, we're all in agreement that Harden doesn't want to. We don't want Harden as a Celtic, okay? And I'm not going to beat the dead horse on that. But I will say the one team he's been linked to is the 76ers. And if he went to Philly, I mean, for Ben Simmons, I could see Philly doing that. Their GM, the Rockets GM, just went to Philadelphia. They have a great head coach in Doc Rivers. I mean, if James Harden goes to Philadelphia, I think they're better than you in the Eastern Conference. I really do. They're not going to win, but they're better than you.
I see more chemistry issues with Harden and Embiid. That's all I see.
Yeah, but on the court, they're better than the Celtics. Easy. Yeah,
I'm sure that's true. They should have been on the court better than them this year, and they weren't. All I'm saying is I just can't see that working at all. There's too many other good teams in the NBA that they will not top, no matter where Harden goes. He needs to be the second option. There's another tier just above him that he can be the second option on a championship team. He cannot be the first. On Philly, he'd be the first, and that team's not going to win anything. It's that simple. Yeah, Embiid's on that tier with them, maybe a tier below. But I just don't see it happening if he were to go to Philly. It'd be an interesting fit. I think it would solve most of their issues if they swapped him for Simmons. But there'd also be a hole left from Simmons that Harden isn't able to fill, and vice versa for Harden in Houston.
Yeah, but go ahead and say it. The Sixers will be better than the Celtics if Harden goes to Philadelphia. They leapfrog you. Easy.
I don't know.
Again, with Harden being as selfish as he is, and same thing for Russell Westbrook. I mean, look at what Oklahoma City had just a few years ago in OKC with Westbrook, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony, all three great basketball players. But three selfish basketball players. They all want the ball down the stretch. I knew this was not going to work once Westbrook got traded out to Houston. You just can't put those two players together. I don't think Joel Embiid and Harden would get along as good as we think. Obviously, the skill is tremendous, but I don't think it's enough to really win a title or at least get past the Nets or maybe even arguably the Bucks. But I don't know. I wouldn't see. I really don't see James Harden leaving. If there's going to be somebody leaving or getting traded, it's going to be Westbrook.
Yeah, speaking of Westbrook, he's the next guy on the links that somehow has been linked to the Celtics. I don't get Westbrook out of here. Like Westbrook, I'm sorry, but like I love he's a hustler, man. Like he's a guy that'll go out, he'll get you a triple double. He did it, averaged it for 3 seasons. That guy's a straight hustler. But I do not want Russell Westbrook on the Celtics team at all. It's literally, you guys, Justin, I think you mentioned earlier that Harden would be Kyrie 2.0. No, Westbrook would be 2.0 because he has that ego with him. He has the ego with him. He would come in and be like, "You young guys, you guys don't get it yet. I'm the MVP here." And
Jake, what you mentioned the triple doubles. What has he done with those triple doubles? Has he won any titles?
That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't want him. He's not a winner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think to anyone who doesn't watch basketball, you can describe Russell Westbrook, the 2020 Russell Westbrook, as the high school football player playing pickup basketball. He's the high school rank trying to play pickup basketball.
I mean, I'll give you that. I mean, James Harden just plays iso ball all the time. That's all he does. And he checks up a shot.
Double. He's top 5 athlete in the game, maybe top 3 right now. But he's not a winner, and that's what we need right now. We need to go out and get. Maybe it comes from within. Maybe we do need to go out and grab somebody, but it's not Russ. It has never been Russ, and it will never be Russ. Him and Harden are going to be joined at the hip. Yeah, they'll be on different teams, but they're going to be among those two of a larger bunch that multi-time All-Stars, All-NBA will never win a ring. That's just the truth.
I don't like Westbrook. I don't like him.
I haven't years past. Not that I don't like him. I just think he's taking that as a joke year after year.
He's a good player. I respect his hustle. I respect everything about him, but I don't want him on the Celtics. I don't want him here.
I think, in my opinion, I think he's incredibly overrated. I do. Again, everyone nonstop talks about the triple doubles, which is really, it's great. It really is great. It's history. But again, if you're not winning those games where you're getting a majority of your triple doubles, then what? It doesn't matter. So
I don't want Westbrook here. I'm going to reiterate it multiple times because people actually think Westbrook should come to Boston, and I want to just slap him because that's such a stupid thing to say. Because I mean, you could argue there's chemistry issues now. If you bring in Westbrook, it's just going to get worse. So please stop telling me in my DMs, "Oh, Westbrook to the Celtics." No, it's not going to happen. Just end it. I think it's funny, though, on a side point with Westbrook is that, of course, the one team to be linked to him, and I feel like this has been linked to him for at least 5 years now, the New York Knicks. I mean, they're linked to get everybody, but I've been seeing that a lot on Twitter and Instagram. People being like, "Oh, Westbrook to the Knicks is going to happen." Yeah, I'm sure it won't because it's the Knicks, but...
If it does, please, take him. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, you guys aren't going to do anything. You know, I actually sometimes forget. I was looking at our division, and I legitimately forgot that the Knicks were in our division. I was listing up the teams, and I was like, I'm missing one. And I realized about 5 minutes later, it was the Knicks. And I'm like, you guys are so bad, I forgot about you. That's how, and it's sad because they have a good history. But I don't know, that's my little Knicks rant.
Yeah, I mean, go drop the Westbrook thing, but I think this next person on the list is the most intriguing here, at least to me. Or one of the most intriguing is Jrue Holiday. I do think that his play style will fit beautifully in Boston with his defense at the point guard position. You want to maybe swap him for Kemba, let's say, and you got a Jrue, Smart, Tatum, Jalen, and where you can get at the big, maybe Robert Williams even. That defensive line, that's a nightmare for any team. It's not that you can't hear there's a whole other side of the ball that Jrue can't play. He's a force offensively. Yeah, and then with him at the point guard instead of Kemba, you can delegate the offense to Brown and Tatum and let them grow in that aspect even more. But I've been contemplating this in my head all day. I don't know if it makes this better or worse, but it's definitely the most intriguing to me. I don't know what you guys think about that.
My thing with Holiday is I think he solves the problem that you could have with Marcus Smart. Because I've said this before, and I know, Reed, you heavily disagreed with me. But I feel like there's an underlying chemistry issue that's not coming up with the Celtics team between that core of Smart, Brown, and Tatum. I feel like for some reason that Smart feels like he's going to be on level with Tatum, and he's not. And, we saw it in the bubble a little bit. They kind of butted heads a little bit. And I get it. They were, having tough games. That's how it was. But I feel like if you could move Smart for Holiday, I feel like you should do that. Holiday's very interesting. I mean, although you kind of lose on the defensive end, you kind of bring in that veteran guy that I've been asking the Celtics to do for years now, bringing that veteran guy. So I would not be opposed to Marcus Smart leaving for Holiday, but again, it's another one of those trades you look at and you be like, well, it's a double-edged sword. You gain some offense, but you lose some defense.
I don't know, like, you want to keep beating the whole locker room, yelling at each other, whatever that was, like, over and over. Like, that was – teams do that. They get frustrated. They take it out on each other. That's not –
Yeah, but I think there's something else there. I think it goes deeper, and I just think that's how it is. I mean, how many times – we've always talked about on the podcast, but how many times has Marcus Smart taken those dribble down the court and taken a ridiculous shot? I just think he thinks that he can be a Jason Tatum and he can be an elite player in the league. I just feel like that's something that it hasn't clicked yet for him. So I feel like if that happens, I mean, how many times in the playoffs have we seen Smart do that?
That's not reason to blow it up with them.
I'm not saying to blow it up. I'm just saying maybe look to
with those three. That's not reason to blow it up with those three. Like that's if anything, that's our core. Those three, like those are the three you hold on to and you build around. That's literally what it is. Those are three that have been here the last 3-4 years, and like Kyrie, Horford, and now look at like Kemba and Gordon. Like those are just add-ons. Like those three are our core.
Well,
I mean,
Jake, when did you initially start thinking that there might have been a problem here between Smart and Tatum? It wasn't the locker room incident, was it?
I mean, I kind of felt like Smart was kind of always over himself a little bit because he always took those shots, like a ton of shots, and he was always like, he's either really good or really bad with those shots, right? And I kind of felt that I almost feel like that he doesn't realize that he's the third guy, right? And then when the whole locker room thing happened, it kind of was like, okay, maybe there is something there. Who knows?
I think the whole locker room problem was the fact that they swept Philadelphia, they beat the defending champs in 7, and they go into the Eastern Conference Finals. They drop 2 straight games where they lost in the closing minutes of the games. I think it was just blown over frustration. I don't think even when it happened, there was nothing. I think the media completely blew it out of proportion in the sense of like, oh, could this be the end, or Marcus Smart. And Jake, I don't think that locker room incident was anything. I really don't. I think it was just a wake-up call to all 15 men on the roster, like, hey, we're down 0-2. We had 2 winnable games. We messed up. Let's go. I think that's all it was.
I don't know. I mean, I think there's something there. And whether it's big or small, I don't know, but I feel like there's something there.
Jake, I'm going to be honest. I think you're the only person that thinks about that incident still.
Yeah. Hey, you can't forget about that, though. Like, that's the type of stuff that'll either help or hinder the team in the long stretch of things.
I don't know, but honest to God, you are the only person that I really heard kind of talk about it. I mean, it kind of was scary at the moment with how the media kind of said, like, oh, throwing chairs, and Brad Stevens had to get in the middle of it. But that night, it was resolved. They all stayed out. They all went out at 1 a.m, went into a conference room, duked it out, went through all their problems. And then guess what? Next game they won. I know they lost the series, but next game they won.
That's what I'm saying. Hayward comes back and they win the next game because Gordon Hayward does what he does and he translates to wins.
You guys are making me seem like I'm hating on Hayward all the time, and I'm not. I literally have clearly said that I don't dispute what he does on the court, but if he wants out of Boston, so be it.
I'm just going back to my point that I made that he's important to this team. That's proof right there.
No one's arguing that. No one's arguing that he's not important.
Their minds when he's not there. That's what happens.
No one's arguing that he's not important. That's what I'm saying.
Hold on, Reed. Before you continue, I just want to touch base on what you said about Jrue Holiday real quick. Would you guys be you guys would 100% be okay with trading Kemba Walker for Jrue Holiday? My question is, say we do trade Kemba Walker for Jrue Holiday, who do we have as a reliable backup point guard? Who do we go for? Do we draft it? Do we draft one? Do we go after one in free agency? We need scoring off the bench, and that could be a point guard.
We can get to that later, but I think that there is one backup point guard that we need to give more consistent minutes to. Say bye to Wanamaker. He's already within the organization. That's Tremont Waters. They've already been about bringing him back this year on a contract. He's what? Oh my God! Why are you shaking?
This guy always craps on Wanamaker. Wanamaker isn't that bad of a player.
Not Carson Edwards.
I'm speaking. Remember straight ago, we just come in, maybe play like 8 to 10 minutes a game, just be that little burst of energy while Kyrie was off the floor and Gordon obviously wasn't even playing because he snapped his ankle, and like Tatum and Brown and Smart were off the floor. Like he was that spark of energy this team needed. that can easily be Trayvon Waters and plus even more. Like, there is offensive potential, not just energy from a little guy. That dude is no one.
I don't think Seymour Waters is ready yet. I love the guy. He has the potential. But give him another year, man. He's not ready to come in and be the Brad Wanamaker. You mean you got give him a year at least.
What's your take on Carson Edwards, Jake?
That's what I'm saying. I keep him over Carson 11 times.
Carson? Oh, I take Waters over Carson any day. Send Carson to the G League. I mean, put him in the main Red Claw. Maybe they can win the NBA G League championship. Whatever that is.
I'm honest with you. I really wouldn't.
I mean, I feel like right now Carson came in as the shooter. Yeah, he's going to be like their shooter, their go-to shooter, and he struggled in his first year. And maybe that's just someone like a transition thing with him. And I'm willing to work with him in the G League, not in the Celtics, in the G League. Send him to the G League, work on that stuff. But I can't say right now on right before the season starts, but we're almost about a month away. I can't say put Waters over Brad Wanamaker. Maybe by playoffs time I'm saying that. Maybe next year I'm saying that. But you cannot open the season with with Trayvon Waters over Brad Wanamaker. You can't.
So who do you go for? Because you just said Wanamaker or Waters. Who do you go for in free agency? Who do you go for?
I don't think you can go for anyone.
But
because if you trade, I said you either trade Smart or you brought Kemba Walker. So you trade one of those two guys for Holiday. You start Holiday, and then coming off the bench, you can have either, Smart's not going to start. You can have Smart do it. If you end up trading Smart and you have Kemba and Holiday coming off the bench, there it is right there. I think you have it all to do it. I don't think you need to go out and get someone. I think you got it.
It's all well. Actually, let's talk about this because you talked about sending Carson or to G League or Edwards, Trayvon Waters to the G League. This year we have 3 first-round picks, and I don't think the last thing this team needs is 3 new rookies on a team that had 3 or 4 young guys and Carson and Tremont and Grant Williams, Romeo Langford. The last thing we need is to bring in 3 more, both for in terms of timeline of what this core can compete, especially with Kemba Walker, and actual roster space. Like, this team physically cannot afford or hold on to this many players. So I think it's best that we need to package them to either move up in the draft, big name player. I'm all for Patrick and moving up. I really liked Onyeka Okongwu. I don't know if you guys have ever seen any of his tape. But, you've been talking about moving up to like around the 6th pick. That would be huge. I think that's a huge get for us. And I think that can be a great move both now and long term. Because I've liked what I've seen out of that guy. I don't know what you guys have been thinking.
Who's got the 6, Atlanta?
6?
Yes.
I believe Atlanta, yes.
That's just I always forget. I got him confused with someone else, but that's the guy that's like 6'9", right? 6'8" with like 7-foot wingspan.
Someone crazy. Yeah.
So to me, that's the second Time Lord, and we've already seen how Time Lord is going right now. And do you really want to reset the time on that? I mean, no pun intended, but do you really want to reset the clock on bringing in another rookie? Like even if you package those guys and you get into the top
side of the ball that Time Lord's struggling with. Whereas Okongwu's literally been dominant at that point. He's got 16 and 8 all throughout college at a USC. Like that's why Time Lord couldn't stay on the floor, because offensively he just looked lost. He didn't know the playbook. He was too raw. Yeah, defensively he can just swat shots away and get up, have the most insane vertical. But there's like nuances of the game that he just kind of lacked this year that he can definitely pick up next year. I'm not saying he wouldn't, but it's just a move. I'm not saying that they have to go do it. I'm not saying they should. But it's a move that I think I'd like for them to do, that I think this guy's a really skilled player. What other moves do you guys think about with this draft coming next week?
Well, with this whole rumor thing about, I know at the moment it's just a rumor, but as the day went on, you guys know it's been heating up with the Hayward and the Turner trade that included the 14th pick. That's probably a big staple that would really solidate that trade. So if that pick goes in the trade, I really don't know what we do from there. Again, I don't know what would be available. You guys would probably know more than me. I'm not really that into prospects, but the 26th to the 30th pick, you guys probably would know what's available there. But I just don't, just like you said, Reed, I don't see us adding 3 more rookies to the 6 rookies that we drafted we had on the team last year. It's just absolutely preposterous if we add 3 more rookies to this team where we strictly need experience, and we're looking for a veteran. So adding 3 more rookies, maybe even more if we get trades, I don't think that's the Celtics are going to make all 3 picks this year.
And that's why I think that Danny Ainge is doing a good job of getting on the phone and contacting all these teams now, rather than making some forced deadline decision come draft day. Like you got a whole week to get on the phone constantly and make deals potentially or seek out deals. You can package these picks now or throughout the rest of this week before draft night and make some pressure trade that maybe you could have sold for a little bit, bought for a little bit more, or sold a little bit less on. But it's a very nerve-wracking time of year, especially with the season coming up just over a month away now at this quick turnaround.
I am so done with drafting rookies and just stocking the G League, because the main Red Claw, they might be the best G League team in the history of the G League. I am so done with drafting players and stats in there. I'm like, in the last 4 years we've drafted 17 players. Do you guys know how many we can carry on a team? 15. We have drafted more players than the Celtics can carry on a team in 4 years. That is astonishing. Everyone wants to talk about Trader Danny. This guy is Hoarder Danny. I mean, like, this stuff's ridiculous. 17 picks in 4 years? Trade, please, for the love of God, please trade 14, 26, and 30. I don't even care if it's for future picks. Just trade them. I am so sick of having, this guy, he's pretty tall. He can, he's a good shooter. Please get rid of it. I am so done with picks. We need vets. We don't need the rookie from UCLA coming in and doing whatever. We need the veteran guy that's been in the league for a while. Oh, I'm so done with picks. Danny Ainge, please trade the picks.
Well, you remember,
I'm so done.
Remember 5 years ago when we saw all these picks, we were getting hyped up. Oh my God, look at all our picks, and now it's kind of like we're just irritated with them and get them out.
Yeah, but we're at a different point than we were 5 years ago. Yeah. 5 years ago, we were in like a rebuild mode. It was awesome getting these picks. And this I bet the same little thing that I'm complaining about right now, in 5, maybe 10 years with the Thunder, I'm going to be complaining about, because they're in the same boat, in 5, 10 years, contenders, and they have all these picks. You do not need to pick 3 more players. If you do that, that means in 5 years, you've drafted 20 players. Assuming you pick 14, 26, and 30. 20 players in 5 years. That's like 4 draft. That is please trade these picks. Please. Get a veteran guy. Please. Package 14 with Hayward and get Miles Turner. Package something and get a veteran guy. Please. I am so sick of picks. And that's my little rant on picks. I'm so sick of drafting. I'm so sick of it.
They're just like a weaker draft class. Like, yeah, it's not not as good as we've seen in recent years. I think it can be. But it's just like a terrible year for scouting. Like, no tournament. End of the season was kind of shut down prematurely. Like, just a really tough year for scouting overall that no one really knows what they're going to get. Like, it's been thrown in the air who's getting number one. Like, lately in past drafts, like, there's been like a unanimous, like, agreed upon number one pick. We don't even have that this year. Like, scouting's just been nearly impossible, and like making big boards and projecting where prospects are going to fall. I have no idea what they're planning on, if they're going to hold on to this pick. Like, no one really knows what's this team going to do. Should they hold on to 14? But I do think that it's time not to sit on your hands when it comes to this. Like, you got a week to prepare, a week to make a deal, and not just force some spur of the moment freak deal for Miles Turner. Like it's, I don't know.
Hoarder Danny. You guys always talk about the Trader Danny. He's Hoarder Danny, because I mean, if he drafts these 3 players, I'm gonna be floored, because you can't draft 3 guys in this draft. I mean, Reed, that's a good point you brought up. I didn't think of that about the whole draft. That's a very good point, a valid point. But regardless of that situation with the draft, if this was a normal year, I would still be telling you to trade those picks, because I don't want rookies anymore. I'm so done with rookies. We have the core. Last year you did you call it like your rookie trimming. You got the last guys. I mean, right now, if you get this guy, you're going to be off your timeline right now, and that's something that Tatum's going to be a free agent next year, restricted one. But let me just say this: if he doesn't re-sign the extension like Brown did this year, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. Big trouble.
They have all these like rookies coming in, especially this past year, but they've gotten like impactful guys. Like, you just saw Grant Williams had a very impactful role in this playoff. Roman Langford, he's very raw and athletic and skilled, but you rarely saw him on the floor because he was injured. I do think that there is something to be had there. Like, Tremont Waters, I think, is a skilled person. I'm not going to like him too much. But I do think someone like him has a role.
What if we got to
have a role? They're just too young, and I get that's the whole argument about this whole thing. But they have found a role and a deep playoff run. Like I'm talking about Grant Williams specifically. Like Ainge nailed that pick for how late it was. I think he nailed it.
It was a good pick.
I don't know who that player is going to be this year, if anybody.
Right. I mean, that was a good pick last year, and it's going to be a good pick for the future of the team, right? But what if these 3 picks turn out to be another Time Lord? Like, you know, I love the Time Lord, but he's been injured and he hasn't developed right. Like,
you have to look at the way Time Lord was brought up, and like you just mentioned with the injuries, and then his first year they had Baines and Horford, so he had to be that third string. He jumped between the G League. Like I said, he was injured. Then the next year comes and they get rid of who was it? Baines. They got rid of Horford, and then all of a sudden, Tice made that huge leap, and he had to stick, and Time Lord had to stick around because Tice would get injured. Tice had that season-ending knee injury. So he kind of had to stick around. He couldn't play that much up down in the G League because of injuries. So I definitely think he's behind on schedule. I don't think it's necessarily his fault, but it's just kind of unfortunate for him.
Final word for this little topic. Hoarder Danny, trade the picks, become Trader Danny again. Please, I'm begging. I'm so sick of the rookies. But we're going to move on to this next topic. Obviously, we all know about the news from Tommy Heinsohn, who passed away this past week. Tommy Heinsohn was not even a Celtic legend, but an NBA legend. He's been in the league for, 6 decades now, 60 years. I mean, he's been around. He's seen a lot. It's unfortunate to see him pass. But I know, what are your guys' some favorite memories from Tommy Heinsohn, whether it was on the broadcast or, you guys met him or something?
Well,
Justin.
I'm just gonna say this, like, everyone, there's a lot of, historical figures that have come through, players that have come through Boston, like Larry Bird, Bill Russell, Paul Pierce, but no one, people think about the Boston Celtics, those are the names that get linked to them right away. What do you think of like Tommy Heinsohn? He is the Boston Celtics. He's been a part of all 17 of our championships within the organization in some role, whether as a coach, as a player, as a commenter. He's the only one in franchise history and organizational history that has been a part of all that. He is the Boston Celtics. It's tough to see him go, but knowing that you won't see Mike Gorman and Tommy Heinsohn on the sideline again. But I think that we had something special and unique that very few teams around the league or organizations around the league will ever have. And having a player like that, or a person like that, not even a player, a part of your organization and making such an impact in people's lives that they didn't even know about. And I think that was Tommy Heinsohn.
Justin, you got anything?
Well, I knew Tommy personally, actually. I went to school, and I actually grew up with his grandsons, his 2 twin grandsons. I played basketball with them all throughout middle school, throughout high school. So I knew them very well. Tommy came out to a few of our games, and I met him I think my 7th or 8th grade year. And I looked up to him. I was getting my autograph. He signed one of my shoes. And I asked him, it was when Paul Pierce left. So this is actually before 7th or 8th grade. And I asked him, hey, how do you think the Celtics are going to turn out without Pierce? He looked at me, he winked, he laughed, he smiled, and he's like, I think they'll turn out just fine. And like I said, what was that?
That he called it.
Yeah, he did. He called it. He really did call it. I mean, we've been to 3 out of the 4 Eastern Conference Finals the past 4 years, which is awesome. But he was so special to me, and him and Mike Gorman are the reasons why I do what I do. I do communications, I do journalism, I did play-by-play. I was the first play-by-play broadcaster for my school since 2001. So he had a huge impact on my life, and to be able to grow up around his grandsons was such a privilege. I did all of my digital media work at school with one of his grandsons. He's into photography, and I did basketball with his other grandson. So it was a huge privilege to meet him, and I get to hang around his family for years. And I'll continue to do that because his legacy will live on.
Yeah, it's why I always opt for watching Mike and Tommy over the national broadcast. If it's an option between playing on TNT or Comcast Sportsnet, I'm gonna choose Mike and Tommy 11 times out of 10. He's the perfect home commentator. People are more believing the nuances of commentary, whereas he will just scream and yell and make inaudible noises at the reps. He's what you want in a home announcer. He's the perfect homer. Like we talked about, it's what makes me more thankful that we got to speak with Sean Grandy, like another Celtics broadcasting legend. Like he will get up there within that status within the organization, but it's just like another one of those names that you can't take it for granted what you had, and the fact that we got to speak with him makes me all the more grateful.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy Heinsohn, obviously a legend. I met him a couple of times actually at the Garden, but one time in 6th grade, he signed my ticket, so it was a pretty cool moment. He was, I mean, it's funny, like, we bring out that he was the Celtics. I mean, he was Mr. Celtic, and you even saw that, like, I remember when I saw him for that first time, when he signed my ticket, he walked onto the court, and, like, usually, like, when people walk on the court, even as a player, security always, like, watches, whatever, right? Tommy Heinsohn just walked on, and he was just there. Like, it wasn't, like, any, like, unusual scene or, it just happened, right? It's something that, happened. And, fortunately enough, I was fortunate to meet him and have him sign my ticket. And that was, like, very cool to have it. I got a couple pictures with him. But yeah, Tommy Heinsohn was definitely a legend. I'm going to miss hearing the Tommy points. I mean, that's something I always look forward to when I'm listening to Mike and Tommy.
I think they'll keep that. I think that'd be a great tribute.
Oh, definitely. But, I mean, it's just different, without Tommy.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, 100%.
Definitely. Oh, they'll definitely keep it. But, it's different. Obviously, the Tommy Award, too. They always do. That's different. I mean, Reid, you brought up, we always talk about, I think in Boston, we get, especially Celtics fans that say, oh, you guys are so biased towards Celtics, right? But when I say, like, the Celtics have the best commentating staff from the radio with Grandy, and Mike Gorman, Tommy, like, all the guys that we have, Abby, Kyle, like, all those guys, I feel like those are the best guys that, in the nation for the, covering the Celtics. And even our talk shows, too, are good, like, nationally ranked talk shows. A lot of people always say that, but I mean, I'm not trying to be biased, but I think we had the best. And Tommy obviously was a legend.
You know what's so crazy is that for a local news station, they have a tremendous fan base. And we go back to, Mike and Tommy building up that fan base, their unique calls, Tommy Heinsohn going after the refs. I think that what NBC Sports Boston has and their staff they have there is just incredible. I mean, they're so interactive with their fans, their followers, which I think is awesome. I've gotten the privilege to interview Kyle Draper, who is a great friend of Tommy Heinsohn. He shared with me a few memories of him, which is amazing. So I think what NBC Sports Boston had with Tommy Heinsohn was awesome, and I think what they continue to have will be amazing. And I think they'll do Tommy points, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Tommy Heinsohn was definitely a legend. He was one of the, you look at the Raptors, and obviously there's a lot of iconic things. And, Reid and I, we talked about this with Grandy about the retired numbers. Tommy's a guy that you look up there, you see 15 in the Raptors, and that's one of, you could say that's one of the few numbers that belongs up there. There's a lot of numbers up there that you could say, hey, maybe that one doesn't belong. Why is that one up there? Who's that? But 15, that one deserves it. And, that's something that you're always going to look up and say, Tommy Heinsohn, number 15, that's why he's up there. Because you could say he wasn't the best Celtic to ever do it, but, I mean, you can't say he wasn't committed. I mean, he might be the most committed guy next to Red Auerbach. And, I mean, that says something,
Yeah, do something. You got to build a statue and put it on top of the garden, name the garden after him, something.
He was Mr. Celtic.
Tommy Heinsohn is the Boston Celtics.
Do you guys know Johnny Most? He used to be oh my gosh, he was an animal. I think him and Tommy, if it really stinks that they couldn't, it was completely two different times, because you put those two together and imagine the broadcast we'd be getting these days. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, definitely. That's the thing too, Justin, you brought up with Tommy, was that he was kind of the old school. I feel like a lot of times, especially on the national coverage, they're so biased. And Mike and Tommy, but especially Tommy, like, he did not have any biases, and not even towards the referees or the opposing teams. He is the Celtics. When the Celtics are doing something stupid, he called it out. And so, how many interviews have we heard over the past couple of days where players have said, "Oh, Tommy used to tell me this. Tommy told me this." I mean, there's that commercial that NBC always runs with Marcus Smart, and Marcus says, like, "Yeah, Tommy told me, Marcus, come here, Marcus," and he showed them how to shoot or whatever. But I mean, Tommy Heinsohn was Mr. Celtic.
I don't know about you, but Tommy was incredibly biased. That was his whole shtick.
No, but he used to call. There were times where he could call out the Celtics. I mean, there were times I specifically remember where Tommy would say, "Man, he just doesn't have it tonight," or he would say something like, he would just call him out, and that was something where he just spoke his mind. He didn't hold back.
Watching the game on TV, yelling at the TV, but on the sideline with a microphone. It was perfect. He was the perfect home commentator.
I remember he used to do road games, and whenever he'd go to Philadelphia, he'd have to have a whole, I'm not even kidding, a whole security team with him because Philadelphia hated him and he hated Philadelphia. So he had to, and I remember Mike Gorman telling the story too. He had to be restrained from the refs. Like he got out of his booth and he had to be restrained from the refs. He was an animal. I think he's so funny.
There was like a 20-minute YouTube clip I saw yesterday, just 20 minutes of Tommy Heinsohn yelling at the refs or yelling at players. Like it was worth the watch if you can find it. But
yeah, I mean one last point I want to bring up. I'm sure you guys know him, Adam Taylor from SB Nation. He has a Celtics podcast, and I checked out a couple of his episodes. And one I checked out was actually his interview with Mike Gorman. And in that interview, Mike said something that a fan said to him that, you know, he's been covering the Celtics for so long and doing the play-by-play for so long that there are kids that have grown up only listening to Mike call the games. Right. And Tommy was right there with Mike, you know, that whole run, right? So it's very different I think our generation falls into that we only know Mike and Tommy. In recent years, obviously with Tommy, you know, he's getting poor health. Scal kind of took in, and Kyle Draper, he also took in for Mike a little bit. But for the majority of our lives, we've only seen Mike and Tommy. So it's definitely crazy.
That's a very good point. I was going to talk about that, actually. I wasn't going to say on Taylor, but he does get his credit for that. That was a very good interview with him. I listened to that. It was, yeah.
But yeah, Tommy Heinsohn, it's a legend. I mean, 2020 is taking so many legends. I mean, it's insane. But Tommy Heinsohn will definitely be missed. Definitely Mr. Celtic. Definitely an NBA legend. I mean, what is he? He's one of only 5 guys to be inducted into the Hall of Fame as a player and coach.
Yeah.
And arguably could do it as a broadcast. Like, how many people can, this guy is such a legend. I mean, everyone always says, oh, Celtics this, Celtics that. But, I mean, Tommy Heinsohn, you want to see someone that was Mr. Celtic. I mean, take a look at him. But, guys, thanks for watching this week's episode of the GRD Podcast. We'll catch you guys next week. And, as always, make sure you guys check us out on Instagram at Boston Sports Center 617, Reid Miller 5, and Justin Lowe NBA. We'll catch you guys next week.
Rest in peace, 15.